Welcome to the Nonprofit Report, your update on nonprofit organizations, issues, and leaders. I'm your host, Mark Oppenheim, and today we're chatting with the leadership team from the American Conservatory Theater. And our special guests are Jennifer Bielstein, Executive Director, Pam MacKinnon, Artistic Director, and Joaquín Torres, Chair of the Board President. So thank you all for joining us. This is just fabulous. I was just in the theater yesterday, as you and I shared just before recording started. And I want to start off by talking about the importance of live performance, in the moment performance. And let's go to you, Pam, first of all, to talk about why it is so critical for the art of theater, which influences all the shows that we're streaming on the streaming services, that influences all the work that we see in the movie houses. Why is live theater so critical to the development of this art form of presenting life in its different forms in different ways?
Yeah, well, you just nailed it, right? I mean, it's all about story, and certainly other storytelling media are out there, but there's something wonderful about gathering around that proverbial campfire. So we've been doing this for millennia as a species, and learning different things, learning how to talk across difference, learning that we're both kind of all the same, but learning that we're specifically different. And there's something wonderful I'm a theater director. There's something wonderful about the craft that goes into live theater. You can't edit it. And so building something that is delivered in live time takes repetition, takes discipline, takes forethought. And then also, I'm also an audience member. There's also you feel that discipline, you feel that creativity. An audience is very much a part of the story, in that if, let's say, 800 people laugh together, the actors are emboldened. The actors have to wait. It's a beautiful form of storytelling because we're all in a room together and it becomes palpable. And when it's firing on all cylinders and a story is well told and being received and held by the audience, I just think there's nothing better. Like we learn lessons, we laugh, we cry, we gasp, and we all know what that can feel like. You walk out then onto the streets of your city after seeing something very affecting, entertaining, maybe even challenging sometimes, and you are transformed.
So I have a question for you, Jennifer. If we're talking about these transformative experiences, and I was sitting next to people, all sorts of people, all ages, all ethnicities, all backgrounds. There were certainly people who come to the theater very often, but there were also people for whom this was a very unusual experience. They might come once or twice a year, maybe if that. And meanwhile, we're watching on the stage a multi-ethnic um, uh, troupe of individuals relaying a story that occurred in a particular time, in a particular place, in a particular country, obviously with characters who were all for that particular play, all white in that era. Okay. So now we're creating a connection. And the thing that I really would like to understand from a ticket selling perspective, from the business management perspective, from the perspective of the executive director, how do you sell tickets to a multicultural audience to an August Wilson play, like Two Trains Running, okay? Or a story that's depicted in Kim's Convenience, which is about a grocery store run by a Korean family, right? How do you ensure that all of us, no matter whether we're Korean, of Korean extraction, or African American, or Latin Hispanic, or various backgrounds, that we actually see within those stories, which are very referenced to a particular time, us? How do you do that? How do you convey that before you buy the ticket? Because you have to get me in front of the counter to buy the ticket, right?
So I think Pam and the artistic team do a fabulous job in curating and identifying stories that, while specific in their content, are universal in the lessons you might take from them and the learning you might take from them and the joy you might get from them. So certainly as part of our brand and identity, right, we are putting out there, come to ACT, and you may see yourself represented on stage. You may see your own story represented on stage, or you may learn about someone else and their stories. And in addition to all of the beautiful things that Pam said, also part of what we do through this work is build empathy, right? Because you learn about other people's stories and have more empathy for what someone else may be going through, or vice versa, them for you. So in terms of selling tickets, I mean, I think what we know from the performing arts industry is that often people will buy a ticket for the first time because they are attracted to what's going to be on stage, because they believe they may see themselves represented on stage. So that really helps, I think, as an introductory point, and maybe they're constant, right, for what they choose to experience. We have been introducing a lot of new people to ACT since returning from the pandemic. Our first performance back was in January of 2022 with Freestyle Love Supreme, and had one of the most beautifully diverse audiences in terms of gender, age, race, ethnicity, income levels that I have ever experienced. It was a career dream to achieve, bringing people back in that way and introducing people to the theater. So since then, we've introduced many tens of thousands of households to ACT, and we're working on rebuilding or building up our base of people who come to ACT repeatedly and can experience the work that we do.
So Jennifer, isn't the objective, and maybe Joaquín, you can jump in, isn't the objective to make both this question of where you come from as an audience member both relevant and irrelevant simultaneously when you're marketing, relevant and irrelevant? So you're connecting to us all as men, women, other, whatever, however we self-identify, as Latin, Hispanic, but as human beings, right? Isn't this the challenge, that we want to both honor where the audience is coming from, where the actors are coming from, where the playwright is coming from, Joaquín, as well as make it irrelevant, right?
Well, I think that's the magic of storytelling, is the universality of the themes that are explored in any given piece of art. What is ambition? What is love? What is tragedy? What is loss? What is comedy? What is funny during a certain moment in time? How do people fall in love? How do people fall out of love? Those are the universal stories that we tell again and again and again. And there are always ways in which we can focus on very specific audiences because we want to see them in the theater, and we also want them to see themselves reflected on a stage that quite often can feel like it wouldn't represent them. And there's a happy surprise that we get to present to them when there are these extraordinary stories, unique stories that are expanding, as Pam was saying in a conversation earlier, expanding the theatrical canon in a way that is consistently inclusive of the diaspora of the Bay Area, of San Francisco, and even larger than that. So I think that there is a responsibility that's playing out just by virtue of choosing the stories that we choose to produce and direct and design and act in.
Also, one of the things that we've really focused on, Pam and I, and Joaquín, certainly in our 10 years here, is to ensure that ACT is a welcoming experience for all. So it's Your Theater San Francisco, which is inclusive of the Bay Area, but we're in San Francisco, and working really hard with our audience services team to ensure that everyone feels welcome, hosted, that it feels like a comfortable space for them to be in, that people feel respected. We launched just pre-pandemic our house rules of play, which are about, respecting difference, about celebrating however anyone wants to respond to a piece and such. So that's also been a key part of ensuring that people feel very welcomed and included at our theater.
Yeah, and really hosting, right? It takes an intentional act to actually host host people.
Well, yeah. So I wanted to ask about that, Pam. When you select a work to present, when you select the performers to do the presenting, what is the basis for that selection?
I mean, I think, we're a mission-driven organization, and some of our mission is to ensure that there's a diversity of voices on our stages, and that for me includes not just diversity vis-a-vis race or age or gender or culture, but also aesthetic.
So it's diversity in its broadest form. Let me just read your from your mission statement: an essential gathering place. ACT is an essential gathering place that brings artists and communities together to inspire and provoke. So part of it is just getting everybody together.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And then we're in constant conversation with artists from not just around the Bay, but around the country and even around the world, of having seen some of their work and wanting to give them big platform, and wanting them to engage with audiences in the Bay, or we have a robust commissioning program. So are there stories about the Bay that someone wants to activate? A playwright. So we do that a lot. So, engaging with artists that we have big respect for. And, this could be a playwright. This could be a circus troupe. This could be, a freestyle hip hop, ensemble. This could be a playwright. This could be a director. This could be an actor. What do you want to do? So there's that sort of aspect. There's also, I have piles of scripts on my dining room table right now. We certainly, as an artistic team, read a lot, both extant works, 400-year-old plays, as well as plays that have, one act but not two, and we see a lot. So we engage a lot, and we think about where we are. Theater is essentially local. So even if we're bringing in, you mentioned Kim's Convenience by Ins Choi. We're bringing in a production. We're partnering with a theater in Toronto called Soul Pepper. And this is a 20-year-old comedy that Ins Choi wrote. And when they produced it the first time, about 20 years ago, he is a writer as well as an actor. He played the son. And this go round, he's aged up to play the father. So he's going to play, this is a love letter to his father, who, as a Korean Canadian, owned a convenience store and had consistent, think Archie Bunker, battles with his adult children, as well as customers that would come in. Very much a comedy.
The thing that I think is so interesting here is that we live in an interconnected world, and we end up genericizing so much. But what you're talking about is a very specific experience of a specific place that we can all identify with, right? Joaquín, you've been a San Francisco person. You've served the city of San Francisco for a really long time, and we're seeing people getting divorced from place. We're seeing people basically not caring about cities anymore and moving out of cities and basically looking at their businesses as being, let's relocate them at the drop of a hat, and no longer creating livable neighborhoods. We're all having challenges. Every single city is having these kinds of challenges. To what extent, Joaquín, is what Pam's talking about the thing that helps create identity with a place, helps create community, helps create a livable neighborhood, a place where you can go and shop in the neighborhood at a convenience store, go to the theater, enjoy the place, socialize, go to a bar, go to a coffee house. How important is this?
It's absolutely essential. I think the reason that I'm on this board is because I believe that if a city wants to call itself a great city and a world-class city, it has to have a world-class theater, and very specifically a theater like ACT. And all of the associated networks that feed into it, that inform it, that are informed by it, smaller theaters, and also other large arts organizations, whether they are museums, whether they are other performing arts organizations like the symphony or the ballet, or the opera. It is an absolute network that is essential for creating place. And I think that both together with a political infrastructure and also an artistic infrastructure, that really does define the vision that people relate to for a city, and also the leadership of a city when you have these pieces working in tandem with each other. To know that I'm going to go someplace to support a small business, a restaurant, and see a show, and then go out again with friends or family afterwards, or go to a show by myself or with a few people and meet up with others and have a collective experience, that's when you know you're in a very specific place and time. And like Pam was talking about earlier, the experience of how community happens in the moments that interplay between what's happening on stage, in the lights, and what we're all experiencing in the dark as we're witnessing it in audible connection with each other, in, for lack of a better terms, quantum spiritual connection with each other when the magic of theater hits you in the gut, or when the audible reaction of an audience informs what's happening on stage, the rate of performance, the quality of performance, the type of performance. But all of that, I think, speaks to the importance of we are building something extraordinarily special and at the highest artistic quality. And what we need are the audiences to help make that relationship and that reality of the impact we desire so. We can only be a gathering space when people come and choose to come. It's their energy, that flow, that helps make the desire of theater possible. And it's also what relates to the heartbeat of a city at the same time. We cannot have a city without the arts, and in my opinion, we can't have a city without the power of the theater and the written word or the physical language that you get to see on a stage.
So what you're saying is that the act of presenting theater is an act of community building. It's an act of civil society glue. It's an act of creating the city. It's an act of creating a neighborhood.
Absolutely. There's something very different when I'm watching, a very high quality streaming show at home. And let's be honest, they're not all high quality. And I just be reminded of that. There is a lot of experimentation going on, but also some laziness that's happening in the streaming environment that's being propped up, produced at a high level that can garner our attention in a very specific way. But I would offer that there's something much more entertaining, more comprehensive, more full, more fun that happens when you are in a place in a theater, walking out from the dark into the light, walking from the light into the dark from a street, that helps define your experience in your life in any given city.
Jennifer, one of the things that I feel in my gut is that we're not figuring out how to connect with audiences. We're blaming audiences for not being engaged, right? Now, you cannot blame the person that you're trying to sell tickets to. They're either going to buy the ticket because whatever it is compelling to them, or it's not. And if it's not compelling to them, you can't blame them for it not being compelling to them. Do you buy into that idea of how we need to think about engaging people and getting those audiences in and getting them enthusiastic, or do you think that I'm wrong?
I think that the burden is on us, and we need to create more personalized, direct ways to reach people and get them excited about our work. I think about it going back to, what I have read about the early days of when the regional theater movement was first founded, and people would have subscriber parties, luncheons and teas and coffees in their homes, and the artistic director or executive director or someone on the team would be there and talk about the season, and people would buy subscriptions then or just tickets. And I do think we're in a world where there's just so much coming at people that we have got to find ways to express our value and our value to them and get them to try it. And I think it's just requiring more one-on-one kind of communication versus the mass marketing that we have been putting out there and that we still must put out there. But in order to get them engaged, I think we also all easily are probably more influenced by a friend telling us to do something on social media versus an ad that we receive in our feed, right? And so just ways to activate people to get them to encourage their networks to attend and participate in what we do, I think is a direction we need to lean into even more.
I think you're right. I think we can go back to an earlier stage, but what you're basically saying is there were times in this country where theater had an existential crisis. And that's the response of the theater community to that existential crisis can inform our response today, because we are in an existential crisis, aren't we? I mean, isn't this the case that live theater, if it's not cultivated, will cease to exist? It will certainly contract, right? And so we need to really think about this. How do we, as writers, audience members, directors, artists, how do we actually behave in our own daily life in a way that actually functions as, I have two jobs now if I'm in theater, and it's true for my profession as well. We have the job of doing what we do, and we have the job of advocating for the value of theater. Everybody, the person who pushes a broom and the person who who volunteers and the person who sits on a board, right, Joaquín? Right? The actors, every actor, every director, every playwright becomes an advocate. And now we have to figure out how do we create this community that Jennifer was talking about of connection, and how do we actually push that forward?
Well, I mean, I think part of it is the conversation that you're encouraging right now, so that we're saying the word theater, and we're saying the word ACT, and we're saying the word San Francisco. So
that now you know why we're here, right? I mean, it's you're absolutely right. We want to be part of the solution, and we have to talk about the challenge in order to be part of the solution. Go ahead.
It's a consistency of being of drawing people's attention to the now every single day. The cadence has to be so much greater. The constant conversation of, yes, we're here and we're your theater. We're here and we have something of value for you. Every single day, because there are so many choices that people are making. You're even seeing that in terms of people not willing to plan for a season because it's too much for them to think that far ahead. And that makes sense because of what's going on in the world these days. But, focusing on people that at any moment in time during this period, there is a theater that offers an experience for you, and we want you to come and enjoy it and engage with it in a meaningful way.
And we're going to have the Prince of Denmark played by the fabulous Eddie Izzard, who is just an amazing athlete, actor, writer, director. Boy, I mean, I don't know where you can go with Eddie Izzard. I mean, just an amazing person. Pam, what can we do tomorrow?
I think just building on what both you and Joaquín are saying. I mean, also remind a friend that, the last time they went to New York, they saw a play, and they should see a play in their own backyard. I think sometime we sort of sequester our theater going to, New York and London, but there's some amazing stuff happening just down the block.
Jennifer, I'm going to ask you a takeoff on the same question. So let's talk about kids. Aside from sort of bringing a child into the theater, right, buying a ticket and so on and so forth. So that's off the table because we should all do that, right? What do we do to connect children so that they have a heart connection to the theater right from a very early age? What should we all be doing?
Research shows that if families bring their kids to the theater with them, that is one of the ways that it sticks with them throughout their lifetime, followed very closely by attending with schools or community organizations or others in their life. So I think supporting attendance through schools and also bringing kids, as you said, everybody should be doing. I think we do work to also, especially with schools, more deeply engage people in the learning, students in the learning from scene to production. And so that's a value. At ACT, we also have a robust commitment to training through our conservatory, and we have something called the Young Conservatory that reaches students ages 8 to 19 through classes. And that is actually a great way to engage students and their families in theater and all its impacts in terms of building confidence, learning about teamwork, improving communication skills, and all of the things that we do.
So I'm going to add one last thing, and I'd love to have your response to this. I think we need to bring back a certain amount of ritual. Special occasions are special occasions. Attending a theater performance should be a special occasion. Let's not get dressed up in t-shirts and flip-flops, although nowadays it's absolutely fine. Let's make it a special occasion. What does that mean to you? I don't know. But whatever it is, whoever you're going with, add a little bit of ritual, add a little bit of pizzazz, dress up, be a little bit in the role, in the moment. You also are an actor, aren't you, Pam? As an audience member, you're an actor within the context of the performance. You're absorbing it. You're giving your energy back to the actors. Be part of the show. Be part of the show. Prepare yourself for it. Be informed about the play. Make it a little bit of a thing. Because if you make it a thing, it'll become special in your mind. It'll be special in the mind of the children that Jennifer is citing. And we will all have a much better time of it. And mix it up a little bit. Talk with your neighbor. Talk with your neighbor in those little seats. You know, it makes it pleasant, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's we're coming together, and and definitely coming out of the pandemic. I mean, we all know what those first few months were, and theater fills that void. I mean, we learn how to socialize. We learn how to smile across a room at a stranger. We have to bring all those little human rituals back into play.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jennifer Bielstein, Executive Director, Pam MacKinnon, Artistic Director, and Joaquín Torres, Board President of the American Conservatory Theater. And please, all you viewers, consider attending. Look at the online websites. Please advocate for theater with your friends, your families, and particularly the young children. And please, please, please all thank your teams, your volunteers, your funders, your ticket holders, your staffs, your board members. It's just been a real pleasure to have you here today on the show.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much, Mark.